These betrayals are not loud or dramatic. They don't announce themselves with shouting or visible violence. They are quiet, cumulative, corrosive, like water dripping on stone. They create hollows in your sense of self and safety over time. You've been taught to forgive, to make peace, to prioritize family harmony above all else. But you haven't been taught where to draw the line. You haven't been told that forgiveness doesn't require continued exposure to harm. That family relationships, like all relationships, must be built on mutual respect to be healthy. That love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's submission. The path forward isn't about confrontation, though that might sometimes be necessary. It's about clarity, seeing these patterns for what they are. It's about courage, setting boundaries even when they're met with resistance. And it's about compassion for yourself first, and then for those whose limitations have caused you pain. This journey toward healing is rarely simple or linear. You might feel conflicted, torn between cultural expectations that family always comes first and your own need for emotional safety. You might worry about judgment from others who don't understand the depth of your experience. You might even question yourself, wondering if you're overreacting or being too sensitive. These doubts are normal. They're remnants of the very dynamics that wounded you. The subtle messaging that your perceptions aren't valid, that your needs aren't important, that peace at any cost is preferable to truth that creates temporary discomfort. But consider this. What if the discomfort isn't the problem, but the path toward healing? What if the anxiety you feel when setting boundaries isn't a warning to retreat, but evidence of growth? What if the resistance you encounter isn't proof you're wrong, but confirmation that change is actually happening? Many who walk this path discover something unexpected. Their other relationships improve as they stop accepting mistreatment from family. Their work flourishes as they reclaim energy once spent managing family dynamics. Their creativity expands as they step out of restrictive roles and into their authentic expression. Peace is not something you beg for, it is something you build. This might mean creating emotional distance while maintaining civility, limiting the personal information you share, declining the role of family mediator or emotional caretaker, leaving conversations that become manipulative, spending less time in environments where you're diminished, building a chosen family that demonstrates what healthy love feels like. These boundaries aren't punishments. They aren't ultimatums designed to force change in others. They are simply the architecture of your self-respect, the structure that protects your emotional well-being while still allowing for connection on healthier terms. And here's what might surprise you. Boundaries often improve relationships rather than ending them. When you stop accepting certain behaviors, one of two things happens. Either the other person rises to meet your standard of respect, or they reveal they were never interested in a mutual relationship to begin with. Either outcome serves your healing. Whatever form your boundaries take, remember that they aren't punishments for others. They're protection for yourself. They aren't walls meant to keep people out forever. They're standards that must be met for closer access to your life and heart. You do not choose your family, but you choose your boundaries. And you choose your peace. Sibling betrayal, the silent wounds, and Stoic healing. What if the deepest wound you carry wasn't from a stranger, but from someone who once held your hand as a child? The betrayal that lingers longest often comes from those who shared our earliest memories. The same person who knew your childhood dreams might be the one who later used them against you. The sibling who once protected you from playground bullies might become the very source of your adult pain. There's something uniquely devastating about sibling betrayal that distinguishes it from other relationship wounds. Perhaps it's because these relationships are our first teachers of trust. The original blueprint for how we connect with others outside our parents. When that blueprint becomes corrupted, it doesn't just damage one relationship, it alters how we approach all relationships. Think about that moment when you first realized something wasn't right. That hollow feeling after a family gathering, the subtle anxiety before answering their calls, the careful editing of what you share about your life, the way your body tenses when certain topics arise. These are not overreactions, they are your wisdom speaking. This is not about holding grudges. This is about naming what has happened to you so you can finally understand why certain family interactions leave you feeling hollow, confused, and questioning your worth. Forgiveness without boundaries is just permission. Today, we name these betrayals not to nurture bitterness, but to reclaim peace, to recognize patterns that have been normalized but are anything but normal, to understand why family gatherings leave you exhausted instead of nourished, to finally stop the cycle of pain that has been disguised as just how families are. Betrayal 1. Undermining you behind closed doors. They smile warmly at you during Sunday dinner. They ask about your life with what appears to be genuine interest. They hug you before you leave. Then when the door closes behind you, they begin their quiet work. I'm worried about her decisions lately. Did you notice how he seemed off? I think there's something he's not telling us. Between us, I've always had to cover for her mistakes. This betrayal operates in whispers. Your sibling pretends to support you publicly, but speaks against you when you're not present, subtly manipulating your relationships with other family members, planting seeds of doubt about your character, your choices, your stability. Over time, you sense a change. Aunts who once greeted you warmly now study you with veiled concern. Your parents call more frequently, asking probing questions that feel strangely suspicious. Family members seem to know about struggles you never shared with them. You begin to feel mistrusted without understanding why. What's happening is a quiet assassination of your character. The person who knows your vulnerabilities, who witnessed your childhood missteps and teenage awkwardness, is using that intimate knowledge not to protect you, but to elevate themselves at your expense. This betrayal is particularly painful because it happens in spaces you cannot access. The conversations occur in your absence. The doubts are planted when you have no opportunity to address them. The image of you is being reshaped by someone who claims to know you best. You might notice how family members reference conversations you weren't part of. Your sister mentioned you've been struggling, or your brother told us about what happened. These moments leave you feeling caught off guard, forced to defend yourself against narratives you didn't even know existed. The tongue of a traitor is sharper than any dagger. Marcus Aurelius. This betrayal cuts so deeply because it's invisible. You cannot defend yourself against words you never hear. You cannot address concerns that are whispered behind your back. The very foundation of family trust is being eroded beneath your feet while you're expected to stand firmly upon it. The Stoic truth: if someone poisons your image while smiling to your face, they are not family in spirit, regardless of blood. Family nurtures your reputation. It does not assassinate it. You are not paranoid for noticing this pattern. You are not divisive for naming it. You are simply seeing clearly what has been happening in shadow. Betrayal 2. Sabotaging your success. You got the promotion, graduated with honors, bought your first home, created something beautiful, healed from something painful. Instead of celebration, you're met with, well, I guess some people just get lucky. Don't get too excited. You know how these things usually turn out for you. That's great, though I'm surprised they didn't consider how little experience you have. Your growth threatens them. Your joy dampens theirs. Your wins activate their losses. What should be moments of shared pride become exercises in emotional management. You find yourself downplaying your success, making it smaller so they feel bigger. You apologize for your happiness. You hide your achievements. The promotion you worked years for becomes something you mention casually, almost apologetically. The degree you earned through countless late nights becomes just a piece of paper. The home you saved for becomes nothing special, really. You've been trained to dim your light. The most insidious part of this betrayal is how it becomes internalized. Over time, you learn to sabotage yourself before they can. You hesitate before sharing good news. You preemptively diminish your accomplishments. You develop a habit of focusing on what went wrong rather than what went right, because that feels safer than inviting their subtle diminishment. This betrayal often carries a particularly painful pattern. When you achieve something meaningful, they find a way to change the subject to their own related accomplishment or struggle. Your graduation becomes a conversation about their academic challenges. Your promotion turns into a discussion about their career frustrations. Your new home prompts stories about their real estate wisdom. The message becomes clear. There is no space for your unmitigated joy in this relationship. Your role is to witness their story, not to be the protagonist of your own. If others cannot rejoice in your growth, their presence is not growth for you. This betrayal leaves a particular kind of wound. It teaches you that your joy is a threat, that your expansion causes pain to those you love, that you must choose between your potential and your family's comfort. The Stoic insight: true love does not fear your rise. It is not diminished by your strength. Anyone who needs you to remain small, to feel adequate themselves, is not protecting the family bond. They're protecting their ego. You are not boastful for owning your achievements. You are not selfish for embracing your potential. You are simply honoring the life you've been given. Betrayal 3. Using shared history as leverage. Remember when you were 16 and you've always been the sensitive one in the family. Here we go again. This is just like when your past is not a chapter you've learned from. It's a weapon used against you. Every mistake, every weakness, every vulnerability is catalogued and preserved, not for your growth, but for your containment. This sibling has appointed themselves the family historian, not to celebrate your journey, but to keep you tethered to versions of yourself you've worked hard to evolve beyond. Did you struggle with confidence as a teenager? They'll reference it when you assert yourself at 35. Did you make financial mistakes in your 20s? They'll subtly bring them up when you share investment advice now. Did you once have a breakdown during a difficult period? They'll find ways to suggest you're still fragile or unstable whenever you express strong emotions. Your growth threatens the dynamic they're comfortable with. Your evolution challenges the role they've assigned you. And so they use your history not as context for how far you've come, but as evidence that you haven't changed at all. There's a profound violation in this betrayal. It weaponizes intimate knowledge that only family possesses. The vulnerabilities you showed in the safety of home become liabilities in adult interactions. The mistakes you made while learning to be human become permanent marks against your character. What makes this especially painful is how it happens at precisely the moments when you're stepping into your power. Assert a boundary. You've always been so difficult. Express a confident opinion. Since when are you an expert on anything? Ask for what you need. You're still so demanding, just like when you were little. It creates a maddening double bind. The more you grow, the more they'll invoke your past to suggest you haven't. The more you heal, the more they'll reference old wounds to imply you're still bleeding. No man is the same man he was yesterday. This betrayal is particularly painful because it uses intimate knowledge, memories only family would have against you. The very experiences that should create deeper understanding instead become barriers to being seen accurately. The Stoic truth: family history is not a leash. Your past informs who you are, but does not dictate who you can become. Those who truly love you will celebrate your evolution, not use your history to prevent it. You're not reinventing yourself by growing. You're not denying your roots by expanding beyond them. You are simply becoming your fullest self. Betrayal 4. Public humiliation disguised as humor. Don't mind my brother, he's always been the awkward one. Oh, you should have seen her when she was going through her phase. We still laugh about the time he completely fell apart over. The room fills with laughter. You force a smile. Inside, something withers. This betrayal masquerades as light-hearted family teasing. Your sibling shares embarrassing stories, highlights your insecurities, or references painful moments, all while expecting you to laugh along to show you're a good sport who doesn't take things too seriously. To object would make you seem thin-skinned, unable to take a joke. And so you laugh, even as something precious within you, your dignity, is chipped away in public. What makes this betrayal so insidious is how it's wrapped in apparent affection. I can joke about this because we're so close, but true intimacy protects vulnerability. It doesn't expose it for entertainment. This pattern often plays out in front of others, partners, friends, colleagues, people whose respect matters to you. In these moments, you're presented with an impossible choice: defend yourself and be labeled as too sensitive, or unable to take a joke, or laugh along while feeling a piece of your authentic self dissolve. The power dynamic is unmistakable. They choose the timing. They control the narrative. They decide which parts of your history become public knowledge. They frame your reaction as the problem, not their behavior. And they position themselves as the charming storyteller while casting you as the flawed character in their performance. Over time, this creates a strange dissociation. You begin to see yourself through their diminishing lens. The stories they tell about you become the stories you tell yourself. Their chosen narratives about your flaws, mistakes, and weaknesses become the filter through which you view your own life. Your most painful moments are not comedy material. Your insecurities are not punchlines. Your growth struggles are not amusing anecdotes to share at gatherings. The man who laughs at your wounds does not deserve a place in your life. Epictetus. The Stoic insight: love never seeks applause at your expense. Genuine affection builds you up in public and addresses concerns in private. Anyone who consistently finds humor in your pain is not showing love. They're showing dominance. You are not humorless for expecting basic dignity. You are not overreacting when public humiliation disguised as teasing hurts you. You are simply honoring the respect every human deserves. Betrayal 5. Emotional absence in your darkest hours. The diagnosis came, the relationship ended, the career collapsed, the dream died, and they were nowhere to be found. Perhaps they sent a brief text: "Let me know if you need anything." Perhaps they made a quick appearance, offered platitudes, then disappeared when the grief got messy. Perhaps they were physically present but emotionally vacant, changing the subject when you expressed pain, offering shallow solutions to deep wounds, checking out when you needed presence. When you were drowning, they stood safely on shore, occasionally calling out, "You can do it," instead of throwing a rope or jumping in beside you. This betrayal is defined by what didn't happen: the call that never came, the door that never opened, the shoulder that was promised but never arrived. In your darkest hour, you discovered the limits of their love. What makes this absence particularly painful is the contrast with how you've shown up for them. All those nights you listened to their problems, all those times you rearranged your schedule to help them through a crisis, all those moments you set aside your own needs to prioritize theirs. The inequity becomes impossible to ignore. When they were struggling, you were essential. When you're struggling, you're inconvenient. And then comes the final twist of the knife. When you eventually recover through your own strength and the support of others, they reappear, often taking subtle credit for your resilience. I knew you'd be fine. You've always been strong. See, things worked out. This creates a maddening gaslighting effect. Did you imagine their absence? Were your expectations unreasonable? Was your pain somehow less valid than theirs? You weren't asking for solutions. You weren't expecting perfection. You were simply hoping for presence, for someone to sit beside you in the darkness without trying to rush you back into the light. Adversity does not build character. It reveals it. Seneca, the Stoic truth, those who care show up, even imperfectly. They may not have the right words. They may not know how to fix your pain. But they remain, they witness, they hold space for your process without trying to expedite it for their comfort. You are not demanding for expecting basic emotional support. You are not weak for needing connection in crisis. You are simply human. Betrayal 6, forcing you into roles you never chose. You've always been the responsible one. This family needs you to be strong right now. You're better at handling Mom than the rest of us. You're the only one who can talk sense into Dad. Without your consent, you've been assigned a role in the family system. The fixer, the mediator, the strong one, the caretaker. Your sibling has positioned themselves as the one who needs support, while casting you as the one who provides it. And when you try to step outside this role, when you express needs, set boundaries, or admit vulnerability, you're told you're being selfish, that you're abandoning your duty, that the family depends on you. Meanwhile, they enjoy the freedom you've never been permitted. They can struggle openly. They can ask for help. They can prioritize their needs without being labeled selfish. This betrayal happens through 1,000 small moments where your humanity is subordinated to your function, where your worth becomes tied to what you provide rather than who you are. The insidious nature of this dynamic is how it masquerades as a compliment. We rely on you because you're so capable. You're the only one who can handle this. These statements sound like praise, but they're actually subtle manipulations, ways of ensuring you continue to carry burdens that should be shared. What makes this particularly painful is how it creates isolation within the family unit. While others bond through mutual vulnerability, you're expected to remain composed. While others receive comfort, you're expected to provide it. While others are forgiven for their limitations, you're held to an impossible standard of strength and capability. This assigned role often extends beyond your sibling relationship to shape your entire family dynamic. Parents begin to expect you to mediate conflicts. Extended family turns to you as the default problem solver. Your siblings' children are placed in your care during family gatherings, while they socialize freely. Over time, you begin to disappear inside the expectations others placed on you. Your own desires, needs, and dreams become foreign to you. You forget what it feels like to choose rather than to comply. You are not born to serve roles others assign you. The Stoic insight: you are not obligated to play a part that breaks you. Your value is not determined by your utility to others. A family role that requires constant self-sacrifice isn't a sacred duty. It's a form of emotional exploitation. You are not abandoning your family by reclaiming your autonomy. You're not selfish for having needs. You are simply restoring the balance that healthy relationships require. Betrayal 7, competing for love at your expense. This betrayal unfolds as a quiet political campaign. Your sibling positions themselves as the favorite by subtly framing you as less worthy of love, attention, and approval. They don't directly attack you. Instead, they create contrasts that favor them. When you express an opinion, they present the more moderate, reasoned alternative. When you share a struggle, they respond with evidence of their resilience in similar circumstances. When you need support, they emphasize how rarely they ask for help. They cultivate the image of being the easy one while casting you as demanding, the responsible one while suggesting you're less reliable, the selfless one while implying you're self-centered. It's a zero-sum game where their gain must come at your expense, where parental love and family approval are treated as finite resources to be competed for rather than abundant gifts to be shared. This dynamic often plays out in subtle comparisons. Your sibling might position themselves next to your parents during family photos. They might reference private conversations they've had with your parents that didn't include you. They might remind everyone of their thoughtful gift from last Christmas, while your equally meaningful gesture goes unmentioned. What makes this betrayal particularly painful is how it corrupts what should be your most sacred support system. Your parents, who should be a source of unconditional love, become unwitting judges in a competition you never agreed to participate in. Your extended family, who should be allies in your life journey, become an audience for your siblings' carefully curated narrative about your respective worth. The worst part, you find yourself getting pulled into this toxic competition despite your best intentions. You notice yourself trying to prove your value, defending your choices, highlighting your accomplishments, seeking validation. The very dynamics you find distasteful become traps you can't avoid. This betrayal poisons not just your relationship with your sibling, but your relationship with your parents and extended family. It creates a dynamic where expressing needs becomes risky, where vulnerability feels like ammunition you're handing over, where you're constantly defending your worthiness. The wise man seeks truth, not approval. Marcus Aurelius. The Stoic truth: you are not here to compete for love. Family affection is not an achievement to be earned, but a connection to be nurtured. Anyone who treats it as a contest has fundamentally misunderstood what family means. You're not imagining this dynamic. You're not overreacting to it. You're simply recognizing a pattern that has shaped your family experience in ways that have hurt you deeply. Choosing peace over performance. These betrayals are not loud or dramatic. They don't announce themselves with shouting or visible violence. They are quiet, cumulative, corrosive, like water dripping on stone. They create hollows in your sense of self and safety. Over time, you've been taught to forgive, to make peace, to prioritize family harmony above all else. But you haven't been taught where to draw the line. You haven't been told that forgiveness doesn't require continued exposure to harm. That family relationships, like all relationships, must be built on mutual respect to be healthy. That love without boundaries isn't love at all. It's submission. The path forward isn't about confrontation, though that might sometimes be necessary. It's about clarity, seeing these patterns for what they are. It's about courage, setting boundaries even when they're met with resistance. And it's about compassion, for yourself first, and then for those whose limitations have caused you pain. Peace is not something you beg for, it is something you build. This might mean creating emotional distance while maintaining civility, limiting the personal information you share, declining the role of family mediator or emotional caretaker, leaving conversations that become manipulative, spending less time in environments where you're diminished, building a chosen family that demonstrates what healthy love feels like. Whatever form your boundaries take, remember that they aren't punishments for others. They're protection for yourself. They aren't walls meant to keep people out forever. They're standards that must be met for closer access to your life and heart. You do not choose your family, but you choose your boundaries, and you choose your peace. Final thoughts. You are not cruel for protecting your soul. You are not cold for closing the door on pain. You are not ungrateful for expecting basic respect from those who claim to love you. You are simply choosing clarity over chaos, dignity over duty, and truth over tradition. That is not betrayal. That is becoming free. The family bonds worth preserving are the ones that can withstand honesty. The relationships worth fighting for are those that have room for your whole self, your strength and vulnerability, your gifts and limitations, your compliance and your resistance. True family nourishes your growth rather than containing it, celebrates your uniqueness rather than punishing it, witnesses your pain rather than causing it. Let's be clear about something important. Setting boundaries with toxic family members doesn't mean you've failed at family. It means you're succeeding at health. It means you're breaking generational patterns that would otherwise continue harming future generations. It means you're modeling for others, perhaps younger siblings, nieces, nephews, or your own children, what healthy self-respect looks like. This journey often brings unexpected gifts. As you step back from draining relationships, you discover energy you didn't know you had. As you stop performing roles that weren't meant for you, you uncover talents and interests long buried. As you cease the exhausting work of managing others' perceptions, you find space to hear your own voice, perhaps for the first time. Many who have walked this path report a surprising outcome: genuine compassion. Not the forced forgiveness that spiritual bypassing often demands, but an authentic understanding that sibling betrayal is usually born from woundedness, not malice. Your sibling may be playing out patterns they learned, perpetuating dynamics they inherited, fighting for emotional resources they fear are scarce. This understanding doesn't obligate you to continue accepting harmful behavior, but it might help you release the grip that resentment has on your heart. It might allow you to see them clearly, as humans with limitations, without needing to make them villains in your story. This is the paradox of healing from family betrayal. The further you move from toxic dynamics, the less power they have over your emotional state. The clearer your boundaries become, the less anger you need to enforce them. The more you honor your own needs, the less resentment you carry about others not meeting them. If you've experienced these betrayals, know that you're not alone. Many walk this path of renegotiating family relationships in adulthood, of mourning what should have been while accepting what is, of building health where dysfunction once reigned. Healing doesn't necessarily mean reconciliation. Sometimes the most compassionate choice for all involved is distance. But healing always means reclaiming the parts of yourself that family dynamics taught you to hide, minimize, or disown. Share your story. Break the silence that protects the patterns. Find others who understand this particular pain and are finding their way toward healing. Sibling relationships can be among life's greatest blessings, but when they become sources of consistent harm, honoring your need for peace isn't just permitted, it's necessary. Your heart deserves protection. Your spirit deserves room to breathe. Your life deserves to be shaped by love that truly seeks your highest good. And that begins with the courage to see clearly, the wisdom to choose carefully, and the strength to build boundaries that protect your peace. Remember, the goal isn't to create perfect family relationships. The goal is to create enough emotional safety that you can be present, truly present, without abandoning yourself in the process. To participate in family life from a place of choice rather than obligation. To give from fullness rather than depletion. This journey toward healthy boundaries isn't easy, but it is worthwhile. With each small act of self-respect, You not only heal your own wounds, but create possibility for authentic connection, the kind built on mutual respect rather than roles, on truth rather than performance, on choice rather than obligation. You deserve that kind of connection, you always have. And now, with eyes open to these patterns of betrayal, you can begin creating it, either within your family of origin, if they're capable of growth, or within the family of choice you build with those who know how to love without diminishing. The choice at last is yours.